Yes, I can definitely smell shite.
So Crunchyroll announced the nominees for the next thrilling anime awards, and because nobody gives a shit about those clowns anymore, I will have my own criteria and awards, an overhyped trash of 2020. First, a quick look on what people were talking about in every season. In winter, ID Invaded attracted some attention for its virtual reality detectives before fizzling out along the way because it wasn't doing much in terms of plot. Dorohedoro got attention for its crazy blend of ideas before also fizzling out because it was random nonsense and CGI bullshit. Keep Your Hands Off Eizouken got attention for being a love letter to how anime are being created. It was nicely animated but also fizzled out after a while because it came down to a bunch of toonies fooling around in a school club, and watching people talking about how anime are made is boring compared to simply watching anime. The crowning achievement of the season was Interspecies Reviewers, for being a sleazy pseudo-hentai which caused an uproar by its ridiculous amounts of fan service, before Naxtaku trolled the shit out of everyone by telling his subscribers to mass vote it on Mal and make it one of the highest rated anime of all times. For a week, then it fizzled out and nobody cares anymore because the next season began. So spring came along for making everyone forget completely the previous titles. BNA got attention for being a fairy action flick about racism, and then fizzled out because it was hardly doing much with its premise. Kaguya-sama came back for giving us more run-of-the-mill school comedy shenanigans, for which you have nothing to say once they are over, because they are that superficial and forgettable. And then Tower of God happened, and a new era for anime began. The new Hunter x Hunter, the new One Piece, the upside-down Made in Abyss. And it was shit. Despite the dick riding it got from the web readers, it was a rushed cash grab. Then summer came and Sword Art Online proved once and for all why it's deep and thought-provoking to everyone who were haters and didn't like it for being so good. Kirito is not overpowered, there are no waifus, no rape villains, and it doesn't come down to assholes, terrible handling of the concepts and a laughable ending. The Great Pretender attracted a lot of attention for being a western-themed haste flick with great visuals, but it too fizzled out along the way for having standalone missions, and because the last arc had no sense of tension or stakes. Decadence was a great action-adventure with mecha in a post-apocalyptic setting and virtual reality and fights with huge monsters and a whole bunch of stuff. It was my anime of the year at the time, but I can't overlook how easily the conflicts were being resolved and how silly the female protagonist was despite the grim atmosphere. Despite doing a lot with its subject matter, at the end of the day it's mostly superficial in its execution. The second season of ReZero brought back even more edgy death scenes that were constantly being erased with time resets, and even more waifus that were all over a hikikomori cringe lord. What more would anyone ask for? Plot progression? Consequences that are not constantly taken away? Someone actually dying? Come on! And finally the second Korean adaptation came along to prove why we are now in a new era for anime. The God of High School proved to us all why Korean adaptations are rushed cash grabs based on trashy power fantasies for people with no taste. Then came autumn with Jujutsu Kaisen, an amazingly animated run-of-the-mill shonen with characters who don't do anything, battles which are always interrupted and never feel conclusive, and an amazing power system that comes down to getting power-ups by sitting on a couch, and info-dumping video game terminology during fights, so that the attack can be effective because the enemy knows what hit him. Oh, and don't forget Nat Sakura, finally a dynamic female character who does nothing right. Then came Noblesse, the third Korean adaptation for proving for the third time how Korean webcomics are complete shit that got hyped by people with no taste, and Crunchyroll for promoting a fad that died out almost immediately. The last surprise of the year was Akudama Drive, which very few cared about at first, and then managed to become one of the most popular ones towards the end, for bringing everything to 11 in the second half. It's a mindless rule of cool cyberpunk action-adventure to the most part, that bothers to flesh out a bit its characters, and is not afraid to kill them off. The last episodes were kinda messy, but as a whole, just like Decadence, it did a lot with its subject matter, and was mostly superficial in its execution. And now for the awards. In terms of pretty colors, Dorohedoro and Tower of God had completely random but otherwise captivating settings, and The Great Pretender had a typical setting that was very detailed and consistent. Akudama Drive wins for being captivating and detailed, and not coming down to random ideas slapped together. In terms of stuff moving around, Eizouken had some, since it was a show about animation, SAO had flashy action scenes, and The God of High School had rushed but otherwise nicely choreographed fights. Jujutsu Kaisen wins for having the most fluent animation, the best choreographies, and it doesn't look rushed. By the way, how salty do you feel for a run-of-the-mill shonen being better animated than Attack on Titan? Tell me, Titan turrets, how salty are you? In terms of people doing stuff, Dorohedoro had a talking punk crocodile, which is shallow. The Great Pretender and Akudama Drive had typical citizens, slowly becoming swindlers, and Decadence had a mature adult robot doing mature things for mature people such as myself. And finally, in terms of stuff happening, which for me is also the best of the bunch, there wasn't much that didn't put me to sleep or it wasn't loosely stitched together plot and ideas. Decadence and Akudama Drive were the only ones that had cool stuff happening all the time, with plot continuity and a solid ending, and I am giving the prize to the latter because it didn't have magical resurrections at the end. It had the guts to keep the dead, dead. And no, it's not getting in my tops because it's still very superficial. And in case you wonder what were the most popular ones according to Mal, to nobody's surprise, it was your new generic shonen and 2 heavily marketed Korean adaptations, which we must all support so they can keep making more Korean adaptations. And that's it for this year's standouts and awards. Nothing to lose your mind over. Go back to watching better, older shows.
Yes, I can definitely smell shite.
Time for the Snob Anime Awards of 2021, because who needs Crunchyroll to tell him the popular ones win in everything? Let's start with the winners of winter. First mention goes to Attack on Titan for its wonderful fans, who never miss the chance to send death threats to the animators over 5 seconds of a jacket. The final season, which is not final, so why the fuck did you call it final, alienated a big portion of the fanbase with its drastic change in animation and setting and tone, making most to feel it's not the same show and the rest to drink their copium as they proclaim the real story is about to begin. After 4 seasons, I am sure the wonderful reception the ending of the manga got and the splendid congratulations they gave to the mangaka will validate all the copium they consumed for the past decade and will prove to the snobs who were pointing out all the obvious mistakes that they were wrong. Thus, Attack on Titan gets the award for the most toxic fanbase of the year. Can't wait for the finale of the final season to air, only it won't be the finale either, since they are making a movie afterwards, so why the fuck did you call it the final? Mushoku Tensei obliterated every other isekai in existence. No more slime isekai hype, no more spider isekai hype, now it's all just Mushoku and Re:Zero is the only isekai that matter. And even the latter lost lots of people in the last season because it was mostly talking and confusing plot instead of gore porn, the actual reason they are watching it for. Thus, Mushoku gets the award for Isekai Hype Slayer of the Year. And it doesn't stop there because it also gets many more awards: Best World Building, Best Background Art, Best Sound Design, and Most Relatable Protagonist if you're a pedophile. Wonder Egg Priority proved once again that you don't need to have a good script that makes sense and doesn't destroy all its themes with a horrible ending. No sir, what you need is pretty colors, mystery bait, and queer representation for making the pretentious overthinkers to ponder about bullshit and question their sexuality. For those reasons, Wonder Egg Priority gets the award for queer representation is all that matters of the year. The Promised Neverland managed to prove with its second season how it truly is the new Death Note. Who would have guessed that the moment the children are out of the orphanage the plot would turn to shit, because it's no longer about waiting to do something in a safe environment, but rather about having to be constantly on the run in a dangerous environment. No time for build-ups, no fake tension about speculating who is against them, and no excuses for why they don't just kill them on the spot anymore. Non-stop plot armor and cheap excuses for why something works. Thus, The Promised Neverland gets the award for Best Thriller of the Year, since the finale was so bad it made people scared to consider the manga as a good alternative. The second season of Beastars was more of the same as the first, and its award was the fairly obvious Fairy Pondering of the Year. And don't pretend you were watching it because the CGI was amazing, or you were really curious to find out who the killer was. You just wanted to see the wolf fucking the slutty bunny. Back Arrow was complete nostalgia bait and gets the award award for Guilty Pleasure of the Year. The plot was retarded, but it kept reminding me of Xenogears and a whole bunch of C-grade mecha anime I used to watch decades ago. It wasn't much to brag about, but I didn't have so much fun by watching any other bad show from this year. Moving to spring, where Yasuke did a similar thing to Wonder Egg Priority. You don't need a good plot or even a realistic historical drama. All you need is to keep promoting the skin color of the protagonist as the sole reason for people to check it out. Thus, Yasuke gets the award for Black Representation of the Year. Just watch the first episode because he's black, dislike all the supernatural bullshit, and then move on with your life. That is more than enough for such shows to validate their existence. A lot of people watch Tokyo Revengers for the teen gangsters and the mystery regarding who was the killer. Most dropped the show because the protagonist was a pussy crybaby that ruined everything, but that doesn't matter because it implies anime fans have standards. Thus, Tokyo Revengers gets the award for Best Gangsters and for the Most Pussy Crybaby of the Year. Speaking of useless crybabies, the 5th season of My Hero Academia also gets an award for doing something quite unconventional. Usually the fujoshis take over a shonen's fandom after it's over. The males move to the next shonen fad, the fat ugly females stick around and make gay porn about children. This time we have something different going on. The manga is not over and the animators actively alienate their own fanbase by making a crappy show for the boys and a well-animated fujoshi bait movie for the fat ugly women who make gay porn about children. Thus, My Hero Academia gets the award for sudden demographic jump from the gold standard of shonen to gay porn about children. To Your Eternity gets the award for Best Cry Porn, since there wasn't anything else that was good about it. You just watched it for crying, although you cared less and less the more a secondary character has predictably died, since that was the only reason they existed for. Vivi was also cry porn, but it wasn't so successful. Instead of that, it gets the award for Best Sci-Fi of the Year. The plot sucks because it heavily relies on time resets for plot armor and multiple amnesias for cheap drama, but since we are talking about modern anime, it's the best you can expect out of all the trash that came out in this trash year. Odd Taxi was not well animated and its mystery aspect lacked tension, so it lost that award to Beastars. It did, however, place a lot of importance on characterization and gets an award for that. It did it by being 90% about animals sitting and talking with no emotion, which was boring and most people dropped it because of it, but it was also the best you can expect out of all the trash that came out in this trash year. In case you didn't notice it, the second half of the year was a wasteland with almost nothing of interest to talk about. Summer in specific only had the second season of Maid Dragon as its highlight. It was just a crappy comedy about lesbians with big boobs, but it also made a lot of people sad over the arson of the animation studio. They rushed to score it with endless tens because of the death of some people they never met and didn't even know they existed until they were dead. Thus, Maid Dragon gets the award for Best Guilt Trip of the Year. And finally, Autumn, which was also Wasteland, has the standout of the second season of Demon Slayer. Not because it was full of pretty colors, but because it was a shameless re-airing of the movie. What was the point of going to see it at a cinema during a pandemic when you could stay home and watch it practically for free on your TV? It became the most financially successful anime movie by not telling us it would air on television a few months later. Thus, Demon Slayer gets the award of the biggest scam of the year, because that's what modern anime are all about. A big scam for getting your money. And the last award goes to the 6th season of JoJo. Have you gotten tired of manly men doing manly adventures? This season will subvert your expectations by being about imprisoned fashion model chicks being stuck in the exact same place and doing vagina jokes. Also, remember the time when the heroes were using superpowers and weren't about superpowers using the heroes? Here is another subversion. Also, as it's typical of modern times, the manly Jotaro gets nerfed and easily incapacitated so a chick can replace him. Thus, this show gets the award for Best Vagina Jokes of the Year, because I sure as hell didn't enjoy it for anything else. As for the best anime of the year, well, it's obvious, isn't it? We knew it even before 2021 began. It's the year of Boruto! The same way 2020 was a new era for anime, because it had a few crappy webcomic adaptations. That's all you can expect from shitty modern anime.
Yes, I can definitely smell shite.
Here are the Snob Awards for 2022. Let's begin by mentioning the top 3 highlights of every season. Winter had a pretty visuals and everything else is mediocre. Shonen. We also got the not really last season of There Is No Time Travel, and the real story starts after the finale, Trainwreck. And the third title was a generic rom-com about a cosplay slut that is already forgotten, like pretty much everything that gets hyped up because there is nothing else to watch. In spring we got another rom-com, only this time it had pretty colors, so people still remember it. It's supposed to be psychological or something, but all I remember is everyone memeing the first ending. The second highlight was a comedy, which just like the previous one, it's mostly remembered for the Anya memes. And the third one is a soft porn that wants you to think it's a time reset mystery. I wouldn't know about that, all I remember is the protagonist doing all the usual crap we see in harems. It was really boring and nobody made memes about it, so it's almost forgotten by now. In summer we got a cyberpunk series based on a video game called Cyberpunk, which belongs to the genre of cyberpunk, while at the same time not doing much with cyberpunk. And it was also rather boring, it came down to an average crime flick plot. People overhyped it because the bar was very low because of how terrible the game was, and also because the ending wasn't a happy one. That aside, it's nothing much and it really rushes the plot in the second half. The second highlight was a pedo-gore porn, which everybody's obviously watching for the background art. There is nothing going on in the foreground. Ignore the naked children getting molested, look at those backgrounds. And the third one was lesbian teens. That's it, that's the only reason people were watching it for. And finally in autumn we got the Pig Fiction, that is the simp dog anime. The other Pig Fiction, that is the Bankai show, and the oh my god, it's 3 seasons of the same thing over and over again. Zero tension. The theme of power doesn't mean anything, makes no sense, when power is what solves all the problems. Special mention to the remakes of old classics back when anime were good. None of them are as good as the originals, and in fact they are unnecessary if you are watching the retro goodness that is the previous versions. But they're still great compared to the modern trash everyone hypes up as Pig Fiction these days. And now for the winner per category. Best Characters, Legend of the Awesome Heroes. It's a space opera about politics and mind games in battle. Hundreds of characters, each one with a role to play. If some of you are morons and prefer something else, let me remind you Attack on Giant Naked People has no characters. They are all mind-controlled puppets. Mid Slayer is so lazy it fleshes out the bad guys as they are dying. Meme-ending Sama and Mid-Psycho are comedies, so they don't take the subject matter seriously. Summertime face-planting on boobs ruins everything with fan service and dull characters. Cyberpunk Midrunners has everyone being stupid in a typical plot. Made in a Piece and Chain Simp Man are deviant and decadent. Their characters are stupid and can do shit without constant plot armor. So yeah, there is no doubt about which characters were the best. Best Animation and Action, Mid Slayer. It had the best battle choreography and the least annoying CGI. Best Story, Legend of the Awesome Heroes. Nothing comes close to its plot in any year. Best Mystery, Summertime Face Planting on Boobs. There is no competition. Attack on Giant Naked People answered all the mysteries, and Made in a Piece had nothing worth answering. You were just watching to see naked children and gore. Best Fantasy, Bastard. It's literally perverted Dungeons and Dragons with heavy metal. Best Sci-Fi, Cyberpunk Midrunners. It didn't do much with the genre, but there is no other competition. Even Legend of the Awesome Heroes is just World War I naval battles in space. Best Queerbait, Clitoris Recoil. It's the only thing people remember about it. Best Soft Porn, Champ Simpman. It is specifically designed to turn the viewer into a lustful dog. Best Pedobait, Made in a Piece. No competition. Best Memes, Anya from Spy X Family. Best Imitated Ending until it stops being funny, Kaguya-sama. Best Cosplayer, Whore. My dress up, you're dying alone and you know it. Best Sports, Blue, who cares? Yes, I didn't mention it so far because sports series are not popular. And now for a few worst ones. Worst finale, Attack on Giant Naked People. It's called the final season, part 3, and it's not over yet, while at the same time the real story starts after it's over. Worst character development, Mid-Psycho. 3 seasons of the exact same thing over and over, while the fanboys insist he's a completely different character in every episode. And finally, worst writing, The Bankai Show, because nobody watches it for that, so it can be as bad as it wants to. And that's it for the awards. We had a great year of peak fiction after peak fiction.
Yes, I can definitely smell shite.
Time for the Snob Anime Awards of 2023! I made them a bit earlier this year because there is nothing else to expect on the remaining days. For these particular awards I will go by season, and each season will be divided into 3 sections. The standouts, the titles that failed to stand out, although the pre-airing hype made it sound like they would be standouts, and the titles that once were standouts and yet the recent sequel or a remake was ignored by everyone. Winter had only one standout, so this automatically makes it the anime of the season. It's the second season of Vinland Saga, for which I don't care about because I am not into slice of nothing happens, but otherwise deserves the best historical period drama award of the year. The only title that failed to stand out despite the hype was Nier Automata, mostly because of production issues that delayed the episodes long enough for everyone to stop caring. Although the themes are interesting, it's not really a show you are watching for the spectacle, and the main character is obviously sexualized, despite being a robot in a world with no horny roneries. These 2 reasons are enough to make it not being worthy of the best dark sci-fi of the year, especially when there is something better within the same year. Titles that were once super popular and then fell off from grace include 1. The second season of Tokyo Revengers, which initially everybody liked for the teen gangsters and then lost interest because of the pathetic protagonist. 2. Trigun Stampede, the remake of the 90s classic, partly because it was CGI, and partly because the aesthetics were different compared to the original, people quickly lost interest in this one. It's not bad for more substantial reasons, but it came out at a time when such a series no longer feels special, and CGI is a mood killer. And 3. The 4th season of Danmachi. Only the first season was popular and only because it came out in a dead period and a lot of people were making endless memes about it. It's otherwise a typical light novel piece of shit, and despite having a more serious season, that in effect makes it better than all the rest of them, nobody bothered to watch it. Spring had 4 standouts. 1. Oshinoko, which was supposed to be about the dark side of the pop idol industry, but quickly became nothing but incest memes around otaku babies. It doesn't win any awards since it doesn't really explore its themes in a meaningful way, and it's not even the most degenerate anime of the year. 2. The 3rd season of Demon Slayer, which is only famous because of its pretty colors. It's otherwise as generic as shonen get. Doesn't get any awards, it's just stuff moving on screen. 3. Heavenly Delusion, which is a creepy sci-fi mystery. It could win an award just for that, but it's incomplete, it's very deviant, and there is something much better within the same year. I will still give it the award for the best post-apocalyptic anime of the year. The aesthetics were great, everything else was meh. And 4. Hell's Paradise, which is just mindless gore porn. The plot is retarded and the characters just exist to infodump and then be brutally killed. You are just watching it for the what the fuck moments, and even then it's not that good. I'm still giving it the award for the best gore porn anime of the year, since nothing else was as brutal. The only title which failed to stand out despite the hype was Marshall, something between One Punch Man and Harry Potter. The pretty colors weren't as pretty, and there never was much of a story or interesting themes to keep anyone watching for more than a couple of episodes. And now 3 titles that lost all their fame. 1. The 3rd season of Dr. Stone. Although the downfall was evident even during the 2nd season, because it turned from a survival adventure to a power fantasy about a smartass finding a solution to everything while being surrounded by hot babes. 2. The 2nd season of The Ancient Magus Bride, which became so aimless everybody stopped caring even before the 1st season ended. Also, buying sex slaves is a big issue. And 3. The Konosuba side story, which nobody cared since it was only one wife repeating the same jokes over and over again. The original Konosuba worked only because it had 4 people repeating the same jokes over and over again. Not 1. The summer season had 3 standouts. 1. The second season of Mushoku Tensei, which is a redemption story you are watching for the background art and not for a 14-year-old pedophile buying children to create hentai figurines and for torturing women until they call him master while getting away with it because this is a setting for a Muslim's wet dream. Let's congratulate it for winning the Degenerate Award of the Year! 2. The second season of Jujutsu Kaisen, which everybody's watching just for Gojo. Everyone else's background decoration and the power system makes absolutely no sense. And 3. The second season of the final part of Bleach. Do you like watching nobodies fighting nobodies with transforming swords, while not giving a shit about the plot not making any sense? The damn Bankai show was made for you, goddammit! Now the 2 titles that failed to stand out. 1. The Rurouni Kenshin remake. In its highlights, it's the best samurai drama of all times. The problem is those highlights are not in this first season. Without them, it's a mediocre period drama about a guy easily defeating one-dimensional bad guys. And 2. Zom 100, which is an escapism fantasy for collar workers who hate their jobs and want to see the world burn. It's a mindless action comedy that also had production issues, went into hiatus and everyone lost interest. The only show that lost all its fame is Fooly Cooly. The original back in the early 2000s was monumental as a chaotic and artistic expression of growing up. Everything else they tried to make about it felt like random bullshit that nobody cares about. Finally, the autumn season had 3 standouts. 1. Pluto is a very well animated sci-fi mystery. Easily gets the award for this category, since the other contenders were more about fan service than exploring their themes. Pluto remains a very serious show to a detriment, since it's boring to watch. It is very dialogue driven, and the existential topics they talk about should not be that important to them when their society already has lifelike robots who are even allowed to marry. As per usual with everything the mangaka made, the conclusion is lukewarm, but even then it remains serious. At least up until the magic technology nonsense appears in the finale. 2. Frieren. Slice of nothing in a fantasy setting. Nothing important happens, and it's like an epilogue to a story we never got to see. It's something to watch when you wanna fall asleep, I don't care. Does it get an award? Yes, Best Feel Good of the Year, congrats! And 3, the final Attack on Titan, which ended perfectly, and if you don't like it, you are stupid because it's exactly like in the manga. Were you watching it just to clap at the pretty colors? Were you expecting a happy ending? Did you really think Eren got character development? He was a dumb kid since the beginning and didn't want Mikasa to be fucked by another man, so he killed billions, became a bird, and ran away so everyone can be killed and he will achieve nothing. Perfection! End of an era! It deserves the overrated Trainwreck Award of the fucking decade! The only title that failed to stand out is Undead Unluck, which also had production issues and which also was nothing but mindless action just like Zom 100, so you're not really missing much. Unless you're into sexual harassment because it's full of it. And now the 3 titles that lost all their fame. 1. The second season of Goblin Slayer. The first one was famous only for the controversial theme of rape. Once people lost interest in discussing it, there was nothing else to care about the show. It's generic action with no real plot development about an autistic man killing goblins while surrounded by hot babes. 2. The third season of Rise of the Shield Hero. Just like Goblin Slayer, the first one was famous only for the controversial theme of rape, or rather for the fake rape allegations by a princess. Then became this stupid debate about being forced to buy slaves, so you will have support in battle, oh it's all excused. Once people lost interest in discussing it, they realized it's just another generic harem that supports slavery and stopped giving a damn. And 3. The sequel series of the 7 Deadly Sins. People loved the first season for its good production values, the fast pace, and the broken as hell power levels. Then it became badly animated, the plot felt aimless, and everyone realized the mangaka was into sexual harassing lolicons. Nobody gives a shit since the second season of the original. In fact, this sequel is so dead, almost no site bothers to stream it. And there you have it. There were only 2 good anime this year, the second Vinland Saga and Pluto. Everything else was overrated trash. I really wonder why I enjoy live-action movies and series more than anime. I am giving the Anime of the Year award to Pluto, just because the entire show came out all at once and it didn't fall off so badly as Vinland did. Onwards to a new year with more exciting subversions and deconstructions we have never seen before. The upcoming winter season will be completely dead.
Yes, I can definitely smell shite.
Okay, I'm supposed to make an annual award video for anime, but there was nothing I can seriously award this year. It was dead overall, so this is more of a summary of the highlights, which are not even that high, the lights are on ground level. So let's go over the waste of time modern anime were in 2024. During winter, the fake hype wanted you to like Solo Leveling the most, but as it turns out, the normies were not that easily fooled. It was just a generic action show with absolutely nothing interesting in terms of plot or characters. What ended up being liked by most was Delicious in Dungeon, and even that was just the flavor of the season. Nothing but a typical food comedy in a fantasy setting. Nobody cared about it once it was over. There was yet another season of Kingdom, the anime that nobody talks about, yet everyone buys the manga it's based on. I tried to read it many years ago, I found it stupid and I dropped it. So whether you consider this a highlight, I don't know. Then there was another season of Urusei Yatsura. There is nothing bad about it, but there was also no reason to make more than one season of it. School comedies are a dime a dozen these days, and this just disappeared in the pile. There was also another season of Blue Exorcist, for which I have no idea why they keep making it, when it lost all its hype in a few episodes during the first season. And finally there was another season of Classroom of the Elite, which is another power fantasy about dorks who want to feel victimized while at the same time being cool and surrounded by waifus. Does any of these deserve any award for any particular reason? I personally like Urusei Yatsura the most, but I didn't watch it because I watched the original one 2 decades ago and had no interest to revisit it. Moving to spring, when the fake hype wanted you to love Kaiju number 8, when just like Solo Leveling, it was just a generic action show. But the protagonist is no longer a teenager, what a subversion! Nobody cared, it's already forgotten. What most care about was another season of Pedo Shoku, where the pedophile has wholesome adventures in a school, where he tortures girls into submission and then cheats on his wife. And then marries another wife and the first wife has no problem with it. It's a redemption story indeed. There was another season of Konosuba where they keep repeating the same jokes over and over. Explosion! Explosion! Does anyone still find that funny? There was another season of Demon Slayer, which some were watching for the animation. The hype for it is almost gone by now, there was very little action in it. And what comes next is a mediocre conclusion to a completely mid manga that sold a lot because it had magic swords and spirits. Then there was the remake of Spice and Wolf that every Coomer desired for many years, so he can buy more naked hollow wall scrolls. There was never something special about that show, it was just a naked furry waifu pretending to be teaching you about the economy with terrible info dumps. The hype died out almost immediately, now everyone is dick-riding Frieren, which is just an elf waifu and her silly assistant having wholesome adventures. And finally there was another season of My Hero Academia, the show that is supposed to be about heroes yet knows nothing about them. The hype died years ago, they are just making this out of obligation. So, what kind of awards am I supposed to give to this slop? I guess Pedoshoku deserves them all. Best Pedophile of the Year, Best Faithful Husband of the Year, and of course, Best Redemption Story of the Year. During summer, the fake hype wanted you to love the second season of Tower of God, because it's the one piece of Korean webcomics. It has an ever-expanding world, countless mysteries, and it began a new era for anime. Crickets. Nobody liked it. It was dead on arrival. What everyone liked the most was the second season of Oshinoko, a very well-written story about the pop idol industry that is totally not gonna be about incest and end in a terrible way. Spoiler, it did. Then there was the elusive samurai that many said it was a very good historical drama and was only proven to be forgettable crap. Friendship and Booby's Tale came back for more soft porn and nobody gave a shit. Blind Waifu Automata came back with another season that nobody watched. And then there was this completely generic school comedy about a deer chick that everyone lost their minds over the first episode, and then completely forgot it existed. So, what awards can I give to this slop? Why, they have to be given to Oshinoko for the best incest and best ending of the year! And now we have this season, which actually has far more ground-level lights than the rest of the year. Dragon Ball Diaper gave the power-scaling fantards exactly what they wanted, by offering them a low-stakes adventure with babies instead of Moro. Dan 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 gave us the best romance of all times, by having a girl getting raped by aliens and then falling in love with a dork who lost his dick and is then trained by a G-MILF. ReZero gave us more Subaru suffering, now with 3 times more lolly harem and terrible dialogues. Bleach gave us more damn bankais, goddammit! The remake of Ranma is here, the legendary school comedy from the 80s! I'm not watching it for the same reasons as Urusei Yatsura. Beastars, that popular anime that is totally not a pervy furry romance, got to its final season, and nobody even knows it exists! Rurouni Kenshin is finally at a good part where he fights Shishio's men, and nobody cares. The original series was legendary during the 90s, and now everyone acts like it doesn't exist. 7 Deadly Sins gave us the much-anticipated sequel to a manga that everybody dropped after it became lolly waifus and terrible animation. One Piece went into filler mode by rehashing one of the worst arcs in its ridiculously stretched-out story, where nobody dies and everything is a black silhouette. About the Movement of the Earth is an uncommon show about people debating over the sun not moving around the Earth. And that is all it was about. Just people talking. I got bored of it fast and the rest of the community stopped talking about it. Sword Art Online has another spin-off season! Remember how everyone considered it to be a masterpiece? Remember the endless essays about its depth? Where are those people now? And who can forget Uzumaki, which had one good episode before it fell apart, so it can once again remind us why anime are completely incapable to do horror correctly. So yeah, so many once hyped up shows in the same season. That means it's the best season of all times. It's so hard to award the best one among them. Which could it be? Which could it be? Oh, but of course, it's Dragon Ball Babies, which gave us very important non-binary representation. That's the only thing that matters in this show. Anyways, there you have it, another year, another 24 masterpieces that break the mold, which are unlike anything we've seen before, and which totally are not gonna be forgotten in a couple of months, and will instead be forever remembered as absolute cinema!